All right, time for our next set of chapters. Chapter 7, The Easter Bunny is Weird. It was Mr. Klutz who poked his head into the doorway. "Are you all having a good time?" he asked. "Yes," shouted all the girls except for Alexia. "No," shouted all the boys and Alexia. "This looks like fun," said Mr. Klutz. "Did you ever dye Easter eggs, Mr. Klutz?" asked Ryan. "Sure I did," he replied. "I was a boy once, you know." "Only once?" I asked. "I'm a boy all the time." Everybody laughed, even though I really didn't say anything funny. Mr. Klutz leaned down so he could get a good look at our colored eggs. That's when I noticed something. Mr. Klutz's head looked just like an egg. "Hey, Mr. Klutz," I said, "can we dye your head?" Well, it was like I said a bad word or something. All the kids stopped talking. Mr. Klutz looked at me. Miss Hannah looked at me. Everybody was looking at me. I thought I heard crickets chirping. "I'll make a deal with you, AJ," Mr. Klutz told me. "I'll let you dye my head if you can recite the 8 times table." We were learning the 8 times table at school. I wasn't sure if I remembered the whole thing. 8 times 1 is 8, I said, because 1 8 can only be 8. Any dumbhead knows that. "Right," said Mr. Klutz. 8 times 2 is 16, I said, because 8 plus 8 is 16. "Yes." 8 times 3 is 24, I said, adding another 8. 8 times 4 is 32, Andrea whispered in my ear. 32, I said. I kept going. Some of them I knew, and some of them I didn't. When I didn't know an answer, Andrea or Emily whispered it in my ear. Finally, I got to the end. "And 8 times 10 is 80, I said. "That's right," said Mr. Klutz. "Now you may dye my head." Well, we couldn't dip Mr. Klutz's head into a cup because it was too big. Miss Hannah gave us Q-tips so we could dab the dye on Mr. Klutz. We had a great time dyeing his head red, white, blue, and green. When the dye was dry, Andrea drew a butterfly right in the middle. It looked so cool. After that, Mr. Klutz left, and he took his dyed head with him. It was cleanup time. While we cleaned up, Miss Hannah turned on a boombox, and the song "Here Comes Peter Cottontail" started playing. "Hey, guess who's coming, kids?" asked Miss Hannah. "Santa Claus?" I asked. "Santa Claus comes at Christmas, dumbhead," said Andrea. "Oh, snap," said Ryan. I was going to say, "So is your face," to Andrea, but you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years who walked into the door at that moment. It was a giant Easter bunny, and he walked right into the door. "Ouch," the Easter bunny yelled. "Who put this door here? I can't see through this stupid bunny head." That voice sounded familiar. I knew I had heard it before. "Hey, the Easter bunny isn't supposed to talk," said Michael. "Oh, yeah, I forgot," said the Easter bunny. "And he's not supposed to say the word stupid," said Andrea. "That's not a nice word." "Sorry." A bunch of grown-ups crowded around the door and started taking pictures. Like they never saw a guy dressed up as a bunny before, right? The Easter bunny was carrying a basket. I got up on my tiptoes to see if there were any peeps in the basket, but the only thing in it was a bunch of fake green plastic grass. What's up with that stuff? "Do you have any peeps?" I asked. "Sorry, kid," said the Easter bunny. "I'm not allowed to talk." And then he hopped away. "I thought the Easter bunny was supposed to give us candy," said Neil the nude kid. "If I don't get some candy soon, I'm going to pass out," said Michael. They were right. It was Easter, and so far, we didn't get any candy. No chocolate, no marshmallows, no peeps, no nothing. All we did was roll eggs around the grass and dye them. "You know," I said to the gang, "something tells me that guy was not the real Easter bunny." "What do you mean?" asked Ryan. "He's probably some lunatic who kidnapped the real Easter bunny, stole his costume, and tied him to the railroad tracks on the outskirts of town," I said. "That stuff happens all the time, you know." "Arlo, stop trying to scare Emily," said Andrea. "I'm scared," said Emily. I thought Emily was going to start crying and run out of the room like she usually does. But as it turned out, we all went running out of the room. "Everybody outside," Mrs. Bubbles shouted. "It's time for the big Easter egg hunt." Chapter 8, The Golden Egg. While we were inside that whole time, the grown-ups must have been outside hiding Easter eggs. Everybody ran out of the room and gathered on the back porch around Mayor Hubble and Mrs. Bubbles. "Okay, kids," said the mayor. There are hundreds of plastic eggs scattered all over the lawn. And there's a little something special for you inside each one of them, said Mrs. Bubbles. Me and the gang all looked at each other and mouthed the word candy. I licked my lips. Finally, we were going to get candy. It was about time. The servant guys came around, handing out empty bags to everyone. Oh, one thing we should mention, Mrs. Bubbles said. There's one special egg. It's a golden egg. Ooh, everybody said, because golden stuff is always cool. What's special about the golden egg? Ryan shouted. You know the Burger Queen next to the mall? Asked Mayor Hubble. I talked them into sponsoring this year's golden Easter egg. Sponsor? What does that mean? Asked Michael. It means that if you open up the golden egg, said Mrs. Bubbles, you'll find some $100 bills inside. They were donated by the Burger Queen. Wow, everybody said, which is Mom upside down. How many $100 bills? One of the grown-ups shouted. 10, said Mayor Hubble. 10 $100 bills? I'm glad we studied the tens timetable in school. 10 times 100 is, add a zero, no, add 2 zeros. No, that's not it. $1,000, Andrea shouted. $1,000? That's almost $1 million. Wow, everybody said, which is still Mom upside down. Yes, said Mrs. Bubbles. One of you is going home today with $1,000. Everybody was excited, even the grown-ups. Suddenly, they all stopped drinking coffee and talking about the weather. They were putting their cups down and inching closer to the lawn. There was electricity in the air. Well, not really. If there was electricity in the air, we all would have been electrocuted. On your mark, said the mayor. Get set. Go get 'em. Go get those eggs. Mrs. Bubbles blew a whistle, and the next thing I knew, there were 1,100,000 people running all over the lawn. Out of my way, someone shouted. Let's go. $1,000. Grab the eggs. Hurry up. Everybody was freaking out. It was like they were giving away free candy. Oh, wait. They were giving away free candy. I ran out onto the lawn and spotted a few eggs that were behind a tree. I didn't even take the time to open them up to get the treats out before I scooped them up and put them in my bag. I wanted to find more eggs. Those first graders were monsters at the egg roll, but you should have seen the parents at the egg hunt. They were all shoving each other, elbowing each other out of the way, tripping over each other, and trampling over the flowers and bushes. They all had crazy looks in their eyes. I hadn't seen grown-ups act like this since the last time my dad was late for work and he couldn't find his car keys. I gotta find that golden egg, some guy said as he shoved an old lady out of his way. Not if I find it first, said the old lady, who whacked the guy with her cane. You should have been there. Those grown-ups were hilarious. If you ask me, grown-ups like money as much as kids like candy. Chapter 9. Don't open that door. Everybody was running around the lawn like crazy people for about 10 minutes. I got 5 eggs myself. It looked like we had scooped up all of them, but so far nobody had found the golden egg. Grown-ups were still wandering around the lawn like zombies looking for it. I went over to the porch where the gang was standing. Andrea and Emily came over too. Let's open up our eggs and eat the candy, said Ryan. But the golden egg is still out there, said Michael. If we eat our candy now, somebody else will find it. Where could it be? Asked Neil. We need to think outside the box, said Alexia. I looked around. I didn't see any boxes. What do boxes have to do with anything? I asked. I wasn't even inside a box. How can you think inside a box anyway? It would have to be a really big box, and there aren't any boxes around here. Arlo, chill, Andrea said. There were hundreds of people out here on the lawn, right? Right, we all said. And none of them can find the golden egg, right? Right, we all said. So, the golden egg must be hidden inside the house, Andrea and I said at the same time. We all tiptoed inside Hubble Manor. None of the grown-ups noticed us because they were all looking for the golden egg on the lawn. There must be 1,100,000 doors inside Hubble Manor. We started sneaking down a hallway like secret agents, hiding behind curtains and giggling. It was cool. I bet there are some peeps in here somewhere, Alexia said. If you were a peep, where would you be? Asked Neil. In somebody's mouth, I said. Forget about the peeps, said Michael. After we find the golden egg with $1,000 inside, we can buy all the Peeps we want. Good point. Shh, said Andrea. Somebody will hear us. I'm scared, said Emily. We're going to get in trouble. Chillax, I told her. Nobody said we couldn't look inside the house. We walked up and down the hallways. When we passed by one door, I heard a noise. I stopped. The sound was coming from behind the door. I put my hand on the doorknob. Don't open that door, AJ, warned Ryan. Why not? I asked. Whenever they open a door in a scary movie, Ryan said, there's always a crazy guy hiding behind it with an axe. That's ridiculous, said Michael. Believe me, there's no crazy guy hiding behind a door with an axe. You're right, I said. He might have a chainsaw. Stop trying to scare Emily, said Andrea. I'm scared, said Emily. My hand was still on the doorknob. What if there really was a crazy guy with an axe or a chainsaw hiding behind the door? I was faced with the hardest decision of my life. I didn't know what to do. I looked at Alexia. Alexia looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at Michael. Michael looked at Neil. Neil looked at Andrea. Andrea looked at Emily. Everybody was looking at each other. I took a deep breath. I turned the doorknob. I pushed open the door. And you'll never believe in 1,100,000 years who was standing in that room. It was the Easter Bunny. And he had no head.